Child support exists to ensure parents, not the state, remain responsible for their children's upkeep. The Child Support Act 1991 reflects this, with Section 4, subsection A recognising a child's right to financial support from both parents, so that separation or unequal incomes do not reduce a child's standard of living. The aim is fairness and equity, ensuring each parent contributes according to their income and care, while preventing reliance on state welfare. Inland Revenue enforces payments to ensure money actually changes hands. The scheme applies to qualifying children under 18 or 18 and still at school. A liable parent is any parent not living with or caring for the child. The Act provides three main options. Option 1, private agreements, which are informal arrangements between parents, flexible but unenforceable by IRD. Option 2, which is voluntary agreements, which are written agreements lodged with IRD. Parents set the terms, but IRD enforces collection with a minimum of $10 per week. Option 3 is formula assessment. This is used when parents cannot agree. Payments are based on income, care percentage, child costs, and other dependents. Managed and enforced by IRD, but the least flexible option, relying on annual income unless a change in circumstances is proved.
There are ongoing criticisms of the Child Support Act 1991, particularly weak enforcement and a penalty structure that fails to meet the Act's objectives. As a result, children do not receive timely or reliable financial support. While the 2021 reform was a positive move, it did not address the underlying causes of non-payment. Instead, it reinforces it. As shown on the slides, the graph represents around 72% of those who are supposed to pay child support are in default, leaving tens of thousands of children without the financial assistance intended to support their well-being, according to data from 2024 by Catherine Sherwood from the New Zealand Herald. Inland Revenue's 2022 report further highlights the problem that only 36 of 66,348 cases were referred to court, which is a referral rate of just 0.05%. This lack of enforcement leaves caregivers without effective redress and liable parents not afraid of the repercussions of defaulting, and as a result undermining the child support system's goal of securing support for children. According to the 2022 Inland Revenue Assessment, $1.6 billion of the $2.2 billion in outstanding child support arrears in 2021 was made up of penalties rather than core support. Inland Revenue admitted penalties promote non-compliance by making debts unsustainable and driving away liable parents. The reasons shown on the slide are when Inland Revenue may request that some or all of a liable parent's penalties be written off, as stated by Vanessa Bonani from the Family Dispute Resolution Centre. A 60-day grace period for new players was also introduced. These significant changes lowered long-term debt cycles and made the regulations simpler. However, Section 134 of the Child Support Act still imposes heavy initial penalties, 2% after 1 day and 8% after 28 days. According to studies by the Inland Revenue 2020 assessment, penalties are the primary reason for arrears, and parents continue to seek clarification on the Act and its regulations. Another aspect of this problem is that the penalties are kept by the Crown rather than going directly to the children, which defeats the primary objective of the Act under Section 4. As shown on the slide in red, Section 4 is not being portrayed and the system is seen as unfair, with harsh penalties pushing many parents into long-term default. Without reform, arrears will keep rising and children will continue to face financial hardship. Firstly, the Child Support Act 1991 should be amended to modify the current penalty regime. The Act should be amended to provide that a fixed proportion or all penalties under Section 134 are redirected to carers as a supplement payment, not retained as Crown revenue. This could be achieved by repealing Section 135 and replacing it with a new provision along the following lines. Unless otherwise instructed by regulation, any penalty imposed under Section 134 shall be payable to the receiving carer as if it was financial support, after being collected by the Commissioner. This would shift penalties from a state revenue tool to a child-focused compliance mechanism, better aligning with Section 4's objectives and restoring trust that all payments support children's welfare. The current harsh penalty regime should also be replaced with a progressive income-linked model. Section 134 should be repealed and substituted with a provision stating Section 134, subsection 2, a liable parent who fails to make payment by the due date shall incur a compliance charge calculated at 1% of the overdue amount per month. Subsection 3, capped at 5% of the total arrears. This would prevent minor arrears from escalating, promote equity under Section 4H, and support child welfare. Comparative jurisdictions like Australia show reduced long-term arrears and more compliance because they implement employer deductions and income-based enforcement instead of harsh flat penalties as stated by the Australian Department of Social Services 2021.
Scenario 1. Daniel and Lisa share care of their 10-year-old daughter, Grace. Daniel cares for 2 nights and Lisa for 5. According to Daniel's annual income, he must pay $1,042.60 monthly. After missing payments for 2 months, Daniel owes $2,082.20 to Lisa, plus $166.82 penalty to IRD, not Grace. This highlights a flaw. Penalties benefit the Crown rather than the child. This proposed reform ensures that every amount paid by parent is going towards the betterment of their child and does not become a means for the Crown to incur more revenue. Penalties shall be reduced to 1% initially, capped at 5% after 27 days, and paid directly to the receiving parent. In this case, Daniel would owe $2,082.20 plus $104.11 penalty to Lisa. The cap in the penalty rate ensures that parent stays within their financial capacity and does not impose more financial stress on the paying parent.
Another major flaw in New Zealand's child support system is its inability to update assessments in real time when parents' financial or caregiving circumstances change. The Child Support Act assumes stable incomes and care arrangements, but in practice, modern families face fluctuating work and care patterns. Consequently, assessments often fail to reflect a parent's true financial capacity or caregiving contribution, raising issues of fairness, legitimacy, and compliance. What is wrong and why? Lagging income assessment. Liabilities are based on historic income, often last year's tax return, which fails parents with fluctuating earnings, seasonal work, or job loss. The estimation of income process, subsection 33 to 39, is slow, burdensome, and can still produce over or underpayments. Delayed recognition of care changes. Qualifying care is only recognised at 28% or more, subsection 14 to 16. Short-term shifts, illness, relocation, or school holidays are ignored until the next review, creating rigid cliff effects. Issue harm and problems. Financial hardship. Parents with declining income may be overassessed. Parents with rising income may undersupport their child. Both create inequity. Erosion of trust and compliance. In the Heman and McHugh Child Support in Australia final report from 2002, research shows that compliance is strongly linked to perception of fairness. When parents view assessments as out of touch with reality, they are less likely to comply voluntarily. This makes enforcement more difficult and increases the cost of collection. Conflict and litigation. Delayed adjustments spark disputes, sometimes escalating to court, straining relationships and state resources. Negative child outcomes. Children suffer financial instability when parents are delayed or disputed, when payments are delayed or disputed, undermining the system's purpose. What works and why it falls short. Income estimation and administrative reviews add flexibility, but they are slow, bureaucratic, and place the burden on parents, often failing the vulnerable families that the system is meant to protect. I propose a real-time child support assessment framework that would incorporate modern payroll reporting and care tracking mechanisms into the Child Support Act. This reform would ensure that child support obligations are based on parents' actual current circumstances, rather than outdated income data or rigid care thresholds. This would make it fairer, faster, and focus on children's needs in real time. The framework's key element is quarterly payee-linked income adjustment. How it works: Inland Revenue already receives real-time payroll information from employees under payday reporting. This data can be leveraged to recalculate child support assessments quarterly instead of annually. For payee earners, liability would be updated automatically every 3 months. For self-employed parents or those with irregular work, a provisional quarterly assessment could be made from GST or IR3 filings, reconciled at year end. Legal change required. Amend Child Support Act Part 2, the formula provisions, to require quarterly recalculation using payday income data. Provide for Commissioner discretion to set thresholds, for example, only adjust when income shifts by more than 15%. Having this 50% mark would help to avoid administrative overload. Why it's better.
ensures child support payments match a parent's current ability to pay, helping prevent both overpayment and errors. Removes the burden from parents to initiate estimation processes that are often slow and difficult to navigate. Builds fairness and trust. Parents can see that the system adapts to their reality. And number 2, option enhancement, rapid review track. Alongside this core reform, the Act should introduce a 10-day rapid review process for factual disputes. For example, sudden job loss or a child moving households temporarily. This would allow Inland Revenue to make quick adjustments, avoiding months of financial hardship. Why this reform is better than the current system. Fairer. Liabilities reflect actual ability to pay and actual care provided, not historic or rigid models. Child-centred. Ensures that children receive consistent, accurate financial support even when parents' lives change quickly. Efficient. Leverages existing Inland Revenue infrastructure, payday reporting, MyAR, without reinventing the wheel. And it's conflict reducing, removes threshold cliffs and long delays that currently fuel disputes and mistrust.
Scenario 2. John has an annual income of $100,000 and Sarah's annual income is $65,000. They separate after 16 years together. Their 15-year-old son, Sam, stays in Sarah's full-time care. IRD assesses John as the liable parent, requiring him to pay $1,181.90 per month, which is $14,182.80 annually. When John unexpectedly loses his job, he must continue paying as if earning $100K until he applies for an income estimate under Section 39 of the Act. This process is slow and leaves him financially exposed while waiting for IRD approval. The system is fair in principle but rigid in practice. It does not automatically reflect sudden changes in income, creating financial stress. Under a modernised system, IRD would link child support directly to payee data. John's loss of income would trigger an automatic reassessment without him having to apply. This ensures payments remain fair and responsive.